If you're new here, be sure to subscribe so you stay up to date to all of my future videos. It does help out the channel a lot, and let's just hop into it. I don't want to waste any of your time today. So the 2000 X-Men movie. Now, I'm going to be just going off the cuff here. Not going to be doing an entire breakdown of everything that happens. I've only seen the movie like a few times. Out of all of the movies I've watched so far, this is one besides Ghost Rider that I rewatched immediately after, just because it was that good. I really enjoyed this movie, to say the least, and yeah, it was very fun. I'm enjoying to get to know these characters a lot and seeing what this universe is building up. In terms of the X-Men. I've also been watching the old school X-Men show, and to see all of them portrayed in live action is very cool. I like the guy that plays Cyclops, of course. Halle Berry as Storm, very phenomenal. Storm is a badass, and I really like the way that they're leaning on Rogue in this first movie. Very, very cool. And of course, how can I forget Wolverine? Wolverine's just a badass in anything he's in. He's going to be phenomenal every single time. And then besides that, you've got Professor X and Magneto, who steal the scenes every time they're on screen. Like, every time Professor X is on screen, he's always smiling, unless he's like doing something serious, but he's like always happy. He's really cool. I really like him. He's very, very, very awesome. And I can't wait to see them expand the roster and get more of the X-Men throughout the rest of the other films. But we'll get there shortly. And yeah, let's just talk about it. Let's just discuss the movie. Now, I don't remember everything to a T, but I know the movie starts out showing us the backstory of our boy Magneto, and if you guys haven't seen my X-Men First Class video, which I highly recommend, it also goes into a similar backstory of how he was a German prisoner during World War II. Of course, I'm talking about Auschwitz. He was a Jewish captive who was separated from his parents, and because of this separation, he used this anguish to release his mutant genes for the first time and allow him to access his powers and tap into that using his emotions. And he basically became a human magnet. Yeah, so that's all they really tell us about him in this movie beyond that, until we see him in later parts of the film. And then from this, that's all we get here, and then we fast forward to Mississippi in the not so distant future. That's literally what it says. And we get the introduction of Rogue, and she's just a young teenage girl discussing with her boyfriend. I believe that's who this is. They don't really explain it. He kind of gets clapped like immediately. Yeah, she's discussing how she wants to go from Niagara Falls up to the Canadian Rockies, all the way up to Anchorage, which I believe is in Alaska. And the only reason I know that is because of the Operation Anchorage DLC in Fallout 3, which, side note, I love Fallout 3. But yeah, so she wants to go all the way up to Anchorage and just travel. And he's talking to her about this, and then they kiss for the first time, I assume, because when she kisses him, her mutation is that she is able to take the life force of other people. And in the first episode of the original show, they discuss her powers, and that's where I was able to see where that was going, which I thought was very cool, because I only know so little about these side characters other than Wolverine and Beast, of course, and Professor X and Magneto. It's really interesting to get to learn more about characters like Rogue. Yeah, so she kisses him, and he basically freezes up and starts seizing, and she screams bloody murder. She basically killed his ass, and we cut to, I believe, Jean Grey giving a speech at a Senate meeting, and she gets interrupted by Senator Kelly, who is a massive dick when it comes to mutants, and he wants to put mutants on a registry because he sees them as a threat to the human race, essentially. And he's talking about all the different problems when it comes to mutants. There's a mutant that's able to walk through walls. What's to say that she doesn't walk into a bank vault? There's also mutants who have the ability to read people's minds and control their thoughts and take away their free will. And as he says this, it backs out to show us that Professor X has been listening to this whole presentation and everything, and he's there, to see the progress of mankind, I assume, and where we're at in society when it comes to mutants. Another big key player here is Magneto, who is also there, and this is because he is devising a plan when it comes to humans. And I think Professor X knows this, and he notices that Magneto walks off, and they have a conversation. They're shooting the shit back and forth, and their backstory is very tragic, especially as they're coming from first class, and assuming that some of the stuff from that carries over here. There's a lot of weight to what they're saying still, where Professor X doesn't want to give up hope on humanity, even though, yes, some of the stuff they're doing is kind of fucked up, but it would be wrong to, force them to do stuff and make them become mutants or stuff like that and start a whole war where the mutants take over, because we would just be just like, the bad guys. And Magneto fails to see this, and it's just a tragic tale when it comes to their relationship and stuff, because they're best friends, but they're just on different paths. And so they have this confrontation, and then basically Magneto warns Charles not to get in his way, and we cut to Rogue, who has made her way finally up to Alberta, Canada, and she interacts with Wolverine for the first time, who is shown to be a badass in a cage fight. And he's at a bar and gets attacked by some thug, and we see him use his claws for the first time, which is very badass, very cool. And then the owner of the bar gets involved, and instead of breaking up the fight and stopping the instigator, because Wolverine's a mutant, he puts a shotgun to Wolverine's head, and then Wolverine turns around, slices the shotgun in half, and basically tells him to fuck off, and then he just walks out of there like a badass. Rogue, realizing that he's a mutant, decides to hitch a ride with him, thinking that's her best bet at getting where she needs to go. And she's not seeing any other mutants on her trip, I think. And, mutants are frowned upon. And catches a ride with him. He looks in the back of the truck. He's like, what the fuck you doing? Get the hell out of here. No free rides. And she's like, well, what the fuck? Like, I just saved your life. And he's like, no, you didn't. And then he drives off for a little bit. And he's like, fuck, I can't leave her behind. And then she gets in. They talk for a little bit. They introduce each other. She reveals her name's Rogue, and that he reveals his name's Logan. And they discuss their powers. And it was really interesting to hear that when he brings out his claws, I don't think it's ever mentioned in anything that I've heard before, but the fact that he is in pain every time they come out of his hands, that's a really interesting detail that I never thought of before. I mean, it makes sense because they break through the skin. When it goes back in, it heals up, and then it just happens again, which is very interesting. And the science of how his bone claws work is very fascinating. Yeah, so they're driving along, and then she tells him that it's not safe to not wear a seatbelt, and he's like, I know what I'm fucking doing. I don't need to be lectured by a child. And then immediately a tree falls, and he just flies out the fucking windshield, which I thought was fucking hilarious. It was perfect timing. Ironic timing for that to happen, but I enjoyed that thoroughly, where he just flies through the windshield, and then out of nowhere the back of the truck catches fire, and Wolverine's like, what the fuck just happened? And then of course we see him heal up a little bit, and he's got his claws out. He's like sensing that there's danger nearby, and he just gets fucking like yeeted by Sabretooth, who just fucking comes out of nowhere. And he's there, and he is on a mission to retrieve someone. And before he gets the chance to do what he's there to do, Storm and Cyclops come in, wreck his shit, and Logan had gotten knocked unconscious, I believe. I don't remember 100% correctly, but he gets knocked unconscious, and Rogue gets saved from the fire. Her leg actually gets stuck when they crash into the tree, so Cyclops and Storm help her out, and then they get taken back to Professor Xavier's Academy for the Gifted. And of course that's, I believe I'm butchering the name, but it's something along those lines. It's basically his school for mutants. Yeah, so Dr. Jean Grey is looking over Wolverine, who essentially wakes up, wonders where the fuck he's at, and he basically tries to escape, and he he's being led to the facility through Charles, who is talking to him and kind of guiding him, you know, going like, over here. Where's he going? Where's he going? Over here. And then leads him all the way to his office. And he's like, hello, Logan. It's good to see you. Like, shit like that. And he's like, what the fuck is happening? Where am I? And, you know, Professor Xavier explains where he's at, what he's doing here with all these different gifted mutants, and he's basically a teacher. I mean, of course, that's why he's a professor. But yeah, it's basically a college for mutants, and you know, they're a team. They're the X-Men and all that stuff. He tells an introduction to Storm, Cyclops, and Jean Grey. Him and Cyclops have some of the best banter. It's fucking hilarious. But essentially that's all that he gets told, and he doesn't really trust anybody, but because Charles can read his mind, he's like, look, we've got gifts too, but you're being hunted by an old colleague of mine, Magneto. And then he's like, we don't know what he wants with you yet. It'd probably be best for you to stay here and stick around. Wolverine had asked about Rogue, and he's like, oh yeah, Rogue's fine. Don't worry about Rogue. She's okay. We've actually enrolled her into our courses and stuff, and like we're gonna help her learn about her powers and all that stuff, and get her some help. And so they both stay. Magneto, on the other hand, while they're all doing this, he ends up stealing a senator and turns him into a mutant, because that's his big, grandiose plan, is to turn basically all of humanity into mutants, and he's going to be testing this out very soon. We cut back to the Academy, and Rogue has listened to Logan, who is now living here with, you know, all these mutants and stuff, and Charles, until they figure out what's going on. And Rogue hears Logan. They also offered Logan, I forgot to mention, they offered Logan a chance to find out what happened to him, because at the end of X-Men Origins Wolverine, he gets his mind wiped, and so he doesn't really remember a whole lot, and Professor Xavier is going to help him try to remember and figure out what's going on with his past. And so, yeah, and we've gotten hints of this with Jean Grey having her moments, because she's a telepath too, we learn, and that's her mutant ability. But oh, and she's dating Cyclops. But side notes, yeah. So this is kind of all over the place. I do apologize. But yeah, so he's having trouble sleeping, and then Rogue walks into the room and figures out like he's having a nightmare, and she tries to wake him up, but tries not to touch him. And then Logan, being so fucking deep into his like PTSD like nightmare, he fucking just wakes up enraged and fucking stabs Rogue out of nowhere. And I was genuinely caught so off guard. I was like, what the fuck? Dude, that's fucking insane. That was so fucking, that caught me so off guard. But yeah, so Rogue, being stabbed and is currently dying, touches Wolverine, and because she touches Wolverine, she's able to take his power, and she's using his regenerative ability to heal herself, essentially, so she doesn't die. And that was, when he had stabbed her, he was like screaming for help, like, oh fuck, what the fuck did I do? Oh shit, and then she starts healing and stuff, and then they're okay, and then everybody's like, what the fuck's happening? We heard screaming, what the fuck? And then like, yeah, and because of this, Mystique somehow sneaks onto, I forgot to mention Mystique, but it's like so side, you know, besides the point. But Mystique makes her way, if you know, you know. Mystique makes her way into the facility. She takes over the form of Bobby, who is like a love interest for Rogue. Essentially, he's kind of Iceman, I think. He can form ice from his fingertips. And it's played with the guy from Quantum Break. So it's funny to see the two brothers from Quantum Break end up in the X-Men. I kind of like that. For some odd reason. I like that. And I really like this actor. Ever since Quantum Break, you know, he plays the main guy. Jack Joyce, I think. But yeah, he's fucking awesome. I wish he was in more shit. Well, he is also in The Boys, but whatever. Anyways, yeah, Mystique pretends to be him and basically tells Rogue to fucking leave because Professor Xavier's mad at her for using her abilities, and her ability is just way too powerful. When in reality, Charles is just a nice guy, and he's like, oh shit, Rogue's gone. What the hell? And Wolverine's like, where the fuck did she go? And they're like, I don't know. There's something weird going on here. And so Wolverine, like a badass, decides to steal Cyclops' bike. And Charles had actually sent Cyclops and Storm to go find her because they use Cerebro to find out she's at the train station, and then that's when Wolverine goes and steals his bike. And he gets to her first, and they have a heart-to-heart moment, and he gets her to reconsider staying, with Charles, because Charles genuinely wants to help them both, actually. And when they get there, Storm and Cyclops are trying to talk to one of the people controlling the trains and trying to get some information, and then they get attacked by Sabretooth and Toad. Not a whole lot to really talk about here, but the reason why Sabretooth and Toad are there is because Magneto is also there, and Magneto rips apart the train that they're in. And this was very interesting, especially after watching Deadpool and Wolverine, seeing how Cassandra Nova whips Wolverine around like he's nothing. Seeing Magneto pretty much do the same, because it makes sense. His skeleton is nothing but metal. He fucking whips Wolverine around similar to how Cassandra does, and basically tells him to fuck off, and that his claws are dangerous, and he tries to bend the claws away, which was really fucking gruesome, but pushes him away, basically like, fuck you, we're not actually here for you, we're here for Rogue the entire time. And he's going to use Rogue to try to turn everybody into mutants. And she gets stolen, basically kidnapped, and so the X-Men have to come together to try to save Rogue. And he's taking her to the Statue of Liberty, because next to the Statue of Liberty, on one of the islands nearby, they're doing a big debate on the future of mutants. And so what better way than to turn all of it's going to be with a bunch of world leaders, and he's going to turn all the world leaders into mutants, just to be like a big fuck you to the government system, which honestly, I fuck with Magneto as a villain. Like, his causes are kind of justifiable, but they're also not at the same time. It makes for a unique, complex character, which I enjoy thoroughly. It reminds me very much of Thanos and the complexity of where, you can see where he's kind of coming from. But yeah, so basically they have to try to stop him, and Mystique had infiltrated her way into Cerebro, and so when they're trying to figure out where he took Rogue, he goes in, uses the machine, and gets basically mind-fucked by whatever Mystique put in there, and basically gets knocked out of the count for the rest of the movie. And so the X-Men have to kind of work together without Professor X. And so they set up a plan. They're going to go to Liberty, the Statue of Liberty, and basically fuck shit up, take Rogue back, stop Magneto, win-win. Bob's your fucking uncle. And that's exactly what they do. They take the Blackbird, I believe. I know if that's what they take. They take a cool-ass ship. Beast probably designed it, of course. He's not really around, but I think he's still technically Hank, so, we'll get to that. Yeah, so they get in the suits for a first time. They mention, Wolverine was like, oh, man, do we really have to wear these suits? And he's like, what do you prefer, yellow and blue spandex? And honestly, yeah, I would have liked to see them in the yellow and blue. However, I'm not too, I didn't really dislike the black and yellow either. I thought the black and yellow was okay. I thought it was very cool looking. But yeah, I really enjoyed the fight scenes here at the Statue of Liberty. Of course, Wolverine steals the show, but they all get to show off their powers, and we get to see Storm really be a badass. We get to see Jean actually use her telekinetic abilities a little bit more. And then we also see Cyclops do Cyclops things, and they basically make their way up, but they get fucked by Magneto once they get somewhat close to the top, because he realizes, oh shit, everybody is kind of climbing up the Statue of Liberty. I better go down there and figure out what's going on. So he goes down there, fucking rips open a hole in the fucking Statue of Liberty like a fucking badass. Basically, turns all the metal in that room against him. It doesn't even have to fucking worry about Wolverine. And like gets them all entrapped in metal. Takes the fucking goggles or whatever, the goggle off of fucking Cyclops, and he's facing his girlfriend Jean, and he's like, close your eyes, some shit like that, and he yells out to Storm, fry him, and he's like, now I've got you entirely in a metal conductor, and you want to shoot lightning? I thought you were supposed to be at a school. Dude. And then Jean couldn't do anything to him because he's got the Magneto helmet. So basically, he's a big fuck you to all of the X-Men that they have sent here. And man, he basically clapped and got a fucking W on the X-Men, dude, like instantly. That's just how goated he is. Now, fucking the aura from Magneto is insane in this movie. But yeah, so he basically goes back up to Rogue, and Wolverine had basically pissed off Magneto to the point where he's like, I'm done waiting. He gets Rogue to start the initiation of the mutant shit, and Sabretooth is watching, and he basically has a fight scene with Wolverine, because Wolverine breaks out by fucking sticking his claws inside himself and fucking cutting through the metal that's holding him. And then him and Sabretooth fight, and he basically gets all of the X-Men free, and they are getting ready to attack Magneto, who is all the way at the tip of the top of the torch. But to get there, they're having a little bit of trouble on figuring out how to get there, because Cyclops can't do it, because if they fuck up, they lose Cyclops, who is a high valued member, and Wolverine's like, fuck it, send me, have Storm shoot me up there. Jean, you control me a little bit to where you keep me steady, and then if all else goes to shit, Cyclops, you just blow the entire fucking thing up. And then he's like, okay, fuck it, fine, we're good with this plan. They initiate the plan. He gets pretty much all the way up to the top of this machine that Magneto had set up on the torch, and he's there. He's trying to break Rogue free and out of Magneto's grasp. However, of course, Magneto being Magneto, absolutely just fucking wrecks Wolverine's shit. And the entire time, Cyclops is like, do I shoot? Like, I don't know what's going on. I think we fucking missed this shit. And Jean's like, no, give him more time. He's like, I'm just gonna fucking take a shot, bro. And the W on this man for doing that and actually doing something, and like, the fact that Wolverine and Cyclops, when they need to, actually work together well, fucking Cyclops saves Wolverine, which is goated, and basically allows Magneto to get fucked because he gets shot by Cyclops' shit and gets knocked out for the count. This gives Wolverine enough time to yank Rogue out of the machine, and Bob's your fucking uncle, the X-Men, to save the day. Magneto gets fucking put in a facility. Charles wakes back up, all is good in the world, but Wolverine is going to be leaving and going back on his own after this whole event. He'll be back, but right now he just wants to be alone. And Rogue kind of gets upset, and because of this machine doing all this stuff, this is how she gets the white streak in her hair, which I thought, was a minor detail that was missing, and I thought they weren't going to have that, but it was so cool to see that like they worked her up to get that, which I actually enjoyed. I enjoyed that. Such a small detail that is like such a cool thing when they do shit like that, where they have a character not have something that they usually have, and like they have them get it naturally throughout the story, which is good storytelling. Overall, I thought this movie was great. Of course, the movie ends with Magneto and Charles playing a game of chess, and Charles winning and saying that he'll always be there to stop him because he knows that Magneto will always break out because he's that much of a badass. And honestly, goated. This movie is goated, top to bottom, beginning to end. I didn't really do the movie full on justice, but hey, this is my first time watching it. I missed out some details. You'll get a lot more if you just watch the movie yourself. I'll probably be rewatching it a lot more. I enjoy the X-Men. I'm an X-Men enjoyer now. That's crazy to say. If my younger self saw me saying this kind of shit, he'd probably be like, what the fuck? But what can I say? I like what I like, and there was a lot to like about this. So overall, I would say that I thoroughly enjoyed the movie, enough to give this movie a solid 9 out of 10. And I think that's going to do it for me. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this movie. Let me know what you think of this movie, what movies I should be excited to look out for in the future of the X-Men verse. And yeah, I'm really excited to get into the next one. I believe I'm watching X2 next. But of course, it's going to be in between the Daredevil and all the other stuff that I've got going on. But it should immediately be after the Daredevil review. So, lot to enjoy. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you guys in the next video. Be sure to hit that like, all that good stuff. And yeah, deuces everybody. Bye-bye.